The Chamber of Commerce of a Florida Gulf community advertises that area residential property is available at a mean cost of $125,000 or less per lot. Suppose a sample of 25 properties provided a sample mean of $131,200 per lot and a sample standard deviation of $12,500. Use a 0.05 level of significance to test the validity of the advertiser's claim. Okay, first of all, let's identify the population. This would be Florida Gulf Coast Community residential properties. And we're going to let mu equal to the mean cost of all the properties. Use a 0.05 level of significance to test the validity of the advertising claim. So what they're claiming is that this cost is at most $125,000. Now, a sample of size 25 gives us a sample mean of $131,200. So this is evidence that does not support their claim. This is evidence that actually supports the alternative that mu is greater than 125,000. Now again, the way the textbook writes this is the null hypothesis would be equal. And therefore, when we create the sampling distribution, which in this case is a t distribution, the center of that would be the 125,000, assuming the null hypothesis is true. Our alpha value, our level of significance, is 0.05. And assuming the null hypothesis is true, this would be the sampling distribution. Now, to find our rejection region, we need a T alpha value here. Because we have a small sample and we are dealing with the sample standard deviation. So that opens, or that guides us to a t distribution. The standard deviation is 12,500. So T alpha, I'm going to have to go to the t distribution table to get that. All right, I've got 25 in the sample, so my degrees of freedom would be 24. This is an upper tail test, so my T alpha would be T sub 0.05, and that would give me a T alpha value of 1.711. So my T alpha is T sub 0.05, and that value is 1.711 because that's where alpha is 0.05. Now going back to our problem, T alpha, which alpha is 0.05, so I'll write that as T sub 0.05, is 1.711. And I have a rejection rule. I'm going to reject H sub 0 if T is greater than or equal to 1.711. The T value is going to be my test statistic, and that is going to determine how far away the 131,200 sample mean is from the claimed 125,000 in standard deviation units. So to get that, I'm going to take the sample standard deviation of 12,500 and divide by the square root of the sample size. Now that value calculates out to 2.48. So I'm going to reject H sub 0 since 2.48 is greater than 1.711. So where is 131,000? 131,000 is probably somewhere around here, 131,200, because its t value is 2.48. So I know that it's further away from the 125,000 than the endpoint of my rejection region. So it's out there in the interval that contains only 5% of the sample averages, given that the null hypothesis is true. And I have one of those sample averages. So since there's only a 5% chance of that even happening, I'm going to go ahead and say that the 125,000 is probably not the center and be able to reject the null hypothesis claiming that it is. So I can now have a conclusion. Always be sure and state a conclusion in the context of the problem. Reject H sub 0. Yeah, but what does that mean? So what is my conclusion? I would say that their claim is not correct. The mean cost of the properties is greater than $125,000. Now notice that I didn't say that it was 131,200. No, that was from a sample. That's just an estimate. I don't really know what mu is. I just know that mu is greater than 125,000 based on the sample evidence.